Invincible is the future. What do I mean by that? Besides him being, kinda immortal, I think that superhero media going forward will need the type of substance that Invincible has been able to offer consistently to survive, whether it be accepting that someone evil can also serve a greater purpose in time, but asking, in how much time? And having characters sit on that for a good while, that mental moral conflict, contemplating the never kill rule, then stretching that with only kill really bad guys on certain occasions and knowing not to kill less powerful bad guys, and why you'd be able to not go off the deep end, and contemplating what if you did. All of that balanced with extremely entertaining action and multi-dimensional characters. Truthfully, your boy did not have the greatest 2-ish, more like 1.5 week break. He worked like a loon and didn't get the best rest after tweaking his good shoulder, but it could always be a lot worse. I am grateful I barbecued, watched Mickey 17, which was awesome, spent time with the homies, and my YouTube battery has certainly been recharged. I'm feeling a lot better now, and I'm ready to talk season 3, all the adaptation of the story and character arcs from the comics, the ending, and where things go from here. To think, I literally binged season 3 just a couple days ago. Maybe your boy really is. Well, not really. So just like the previous 2 seasons, season 3 consists of 20 issues more or less packed into 8 nearly 1 hour long episodes. This season adapted issues 46 to 65 with the exception of issues 56 to 58 for the most part. Now I actually finished all of Invincible last year around this same time, so I had only a vague memory of all that had transpired. So apart from binging all the episodes, I had some rereading, mostly speed reading to do, but I was able to knock most of the books out because these books are pure butter. Invincible is the easiest comic to read and recommend, but I really do think that even though the comics are incredible, the show is actually elevating a lot of the material, apart from maybe the art most of the time, which I don't think it's as bad as people say, and it's an issue that we'll talk about a little bit later, but these panels just go so damn hard, so it's a difficult thing to improve on if it's already so good. Ryan Ottley is a beast, so is Corey Walker. So what are these improvements and how are they making them? So for episodes 1 to 3, we get pretty much issues 46 to 52, where we see Mark training to become stronger, training Oliver to be a hero, but also having morals as to not end up like their father, all the while questioning his own morals. After a battle with Doc Seismic, Mark discovers that Cecil is employing the likes of Darkwing and D.A. Sinclair, people who have hurt innocent people, and in some ways that still haunt those individuals that he cares about. Mark becomes reasonably irate, and this causes Cecil to lay all of his cards on the table and reveal the Reanimen and the frequency device they secretly put in Mark's head. So not only does Cecil not really trust Mark won't end up just like his father, he is ensuring the people responsible for hurting others are still free. They show Cecil's origin, which parallels Mark's own current predicament, in that Cecil was once of the same moral conviction as Mark is when he was a younger man, but slowly learned that some people who can be capable of great evil can be capable of equal or greater good and should be allowed the opportunity to do so, because it would be a waste otherwise. So this causes a rift between them and the Guardians that chose to help Mark. But not only is that an interesting conversation to have, the way the show extends this conversation throughout the season and then displays its complexities is so compelling. You can be the good guy or you can be the guy that saves the world, and they're not always the same thing, which is just bars. Especially with all Mark and Cecil have been through, it just makes this conflict messier and more gripping. And that extends to when Mark tries to teach Oliver the nuance of why he shouldn't call himself Kid Omni-Man, how that would make people feel, even though all Oliver knows is a loving father in Nolan and not the terror of Omni-Man. And it's so interesting to see the conversation after Oliver kills the Maulers, especially since not only is he an innocent, naive child, but a super powered alien one at that. But it's the age-old kill the bad guy so they can't hurt anyone else kind of idea, which isn't necessarily bad, but they must teach Oliver why it's not so simple. And it's so nice that they include this scene with Oliver and friends and him choosing to use his powers wisely, proving the good in him does exist, or even just the scene with him and Debbie. And that's a big theme in the comics, is like, love, feelings, emotions. It gets more to the point a little bit later in the series, and I really can't wait for that. But they added that because that was not from the comics, and I feel it just greatly elevates Oliver's character, and especially just the perspective that Oliver offers as such a young character and so innocent with all this insane power, I think really helps to emphasize some of the greater themes of the show. Eve is also just so much more of an active participant in the show and in the action, which is great great because she has some of the coolest powers, being a matter manipulator, especially visually. I mean, she was smart enough to monetize what Mark is doing, which was great. She had way more to do against Liu and Powerplex, and even in the Invincible War, which in the comics, it was insane how fast she got taken out. They find the time to emphasize character arcs like Rex, where he has been on this non-asshole journey, and even find some unexpected genuine romance with Shrinking Ray, which accentuates his sacrifice, blowing himself up to kill that alternate Mark. Moments where Paul is feeling incomparable to Mark, but Debbie reinforces that being normal doesn't mean you don't matter in comparison. There's even a scene where Cecil, of all people, tells Donald not to involve himself because he'll just get killed. Like, there's just something so remarkably human about all these moments, something that is so true and almost even practical, if that makes any sense at all. But it's why I've really been loving this season, and I think that's why the show has been so successful as well as the comic. The Powerplex episode was great, especially with Aaron Paul's performance. They took that BVS Dark Zero event and attached it to something actually good. Shout out to Zack Snyder. Okay, you have to give him the flowers when they are deserved, character and story-wise, which are of the most important things in a movie. It's very hit or miss with his projects for me, but he is the GOAT when it comes to action, visuals, aesthetics. So many people are trying to say this wasn't inspired by him, which is mostly because cultists will inflate the significance or importance of anything Zack does in a similar but reverse negative way for James Gunn, which is quite stupid and donkey-brained and kind of annoying, but it is what it is. This type of thing is done to curb the eagerness for revisionism. They believe because others take inspiration from Zack and they execute those things in better ways, that retroactively makes where those inspirations come from good, which is not how that works at all. But they kind of know that in the back of their minds. It's unfortunate to say that's where things are at, but it's the internet. What are you gonna do? Zack Snyder and James Gunn are both awesome and are great friends. They let Mark sit in contemplation of the Chicago event, and they have Oliver play devil's advocate with the whole dad saved more people than he killed, and he never gets to grow or change or, you know, apologize, like he's the bad guy forever. And it's Mark's job to explain, while that might be true, you know, he has to teach him how precious life really is and how that doesn't cancel out what Omni-Man did. They show Mark talking through his emotions, and Stephen Yeun is able to convey his sorrow and grief so well. He really does give such amazing performances. They were able to make and show Mark just as human as he is powerful, and I think that's so compelling, and again, why this show works so well and why we connect to Mark. At the end of the day, Powerplex is consumed entirely by rage, and that caused his own demise and the demise of his family, which is, again, it's just, it hits you in your soul. The action in Invincible War was pretty good, especially since the whole story of Invincible War was in one issue entirely, issue 60, which I remember being so surprised how much they did in one issue. But I think as the season progresses, the animation got way better, and that was never more apparent than in episode 8, which, damn, when I got to episode 8, I was like, okay, the season's been solid, like the show typically is, but then I got to episode 8, I was just completely impressed. They were on some anime type shit with the conquest fight. Like, it was so damn visceral and fluid and dynamic. I felt like I was watching a Dragon Ball Z fight at times. You know, the amount of tension they were able to generate by extending some of these panels from the comics was incredible. You had Eve participate to a way greater degree and use her powers in the most interesting ways. Oliver proves how much of a cold ass writer he is for his big bro. Plus, the dialogue and line delivery from Jeffrey Dean Morgan was so cold. He even recreated the Chicago incident a bit. It was so gnarly, but it was also just that they added that bit of depth with Conquest, not actually liking what he does and feeling so lonely and sad, but he was just so good at conquering planets that he had to keep on doing it and suffering from success, even at the expense of his relationship with his people. You know, it was sad. It was some like warrior confession samurai shit, and that human living being stuff that they put into the show and into these characters had so damn much to this show. It complements and balances all the gore and violence so well. Even Eve at Rex's funeral was so good because for all intents and purposes, she should hate Rex, but emotions are way more complicated than that. We as humans feel ways that contradict logic, and that is something that is deeply human that we can all connect with very easily. Besides some of the main hero stuff, we got Robot solving Monster Girl's aging issue, which was such a great moment, and trust me, it will only get crazier for them from now on. Nolan, Allen, and Battle Beast, who they are actually making a new Battle Beast comic next month, which is insane since I think the last Invincible Universe comic came out in 2018, but the action from their fight with the Viltrumites was epic, and that's where the real main story of the comic shifts when Nolan reveals that there are only 50 pure-blooded Viltrumites left in the universe due to the Scourge Forge virus. Next season has got to be adapting issue 66 to 85, so I'm sure we'll spend a lot of time revealing some new and interesting ways they plan to take on the Viltrumites. Also, that Damien Darkblood mid-credit scene I have no idea about, since I think he was barely in the comics. Even so, that would be very cool if they threw in some heavier supernatural elements for season 4. Plus, he's just such a cool looking character. I'm glad the show will at least utilize him, unlike the comics. Overall, Invincible has always been a show that has delivered. Maybe season 2 felt a bit disjointed due to the break it had, but season 3 suffered from none of that. I think season 1 is still probably the best, and it is admittedly different now that I've read all of the Invincible story, but season 3 is definitely in second place as far as seasons goes. That's why I'm giving season 3 of Invincible a solid 8.5 out of 10. I think I want to be mad because the animation isn't always like it was in episode 8, but I think it's a matter of more so time than money because, you know, it's Amazon, right? They have all the money in the world. So if they have all the money in the world and the animation is not consistent, then that just tells me that for the release schedule that they're aiming for, which is 1 season a year, it's probably impossible for them to do a better job. At least that's what I could surmise. That's the only way that I can make sense of it. I want to have a show each and every year. I think that is a good, solid release schedule for a show like this. Unless you want to wait 2 or more years for a show, it's that give and take, you know? Definitely check it out if you haven't, and check out the comic, guys. It is so damn good. Thank you to everyone who's still watching after my little extended break. I appreciate y'all. I know I was supposed to talk about Daredevil, but I couldn't after I saw season 3. I had to talk about season 3, so the Daredevil video has moved to this Sunday, and we're getting back to our regularly scheduled Sunday to early Monday drops. I absolutely swear I'm recharged, but let me know your thoughts on season 3. I'm all ears. That's it. If you liked the video, leave me a thumbs up, comment down below, and if you want, subscribe. I always appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope all of you guys are well, and I will see you in the next one.